Hey everybody, I'm Anthony.
I'm Madison.
And I'm Zeb.
And this is the Dynamic Review special episode of Thor the Dark World. Now before we get started, let me just make this perfectly clear. This video contains spoilers concerning Thor 2. Alright, we're going to give you guys a couple seconds to, decide if you want to watch this video or not. If you have not watched this video, we highly recommend you go watch Thor and then watch this video. So, we'll give you guys a second. Alright, so, we've all seen the movie Thor, and, I don't think anyone here disliked the movie, but we're going to go through and we're going to have each of us kind of give you a quick feedback of, our thoughts throughout the movie, because Lord knows there were a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings. We're going to start with Zeb. So Zeb, what were your thoughts concerning this, the sequel for Thor?
All of them, or should we do this organically?
Let's just do it
Organically is probably the best, because I could be talking for an hour here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just start, and we'll talk as we go. What I loved about this movie, the progression in Loki's character, Thor's progression, because it kept very much in line with the way that Thor had progressed from the first movie. In Thor 1, he starts out as this arrogant humbug that, gets cast down, and he fights his way back, and he learns the true meaning of, being a protector, what it means to be king. Mm-hmm. This next one, he learns that he doesn't want to be king. He learns that he fits a protector kind of niche more than king. And as this is happening, he also learns who should be and who would be better for it than him. And, of course, thinks that person dies by the end of the movie. What else was there? The action was pretty awesome. The scenes... it wasn't just focused on Thor, too. Mm-hmm. The fight scenes were not just focused on Thor. Also, Curse was so cool. Oh my god, what a great, brutish bad guy. But he wasn't just a brute, because he was still that, really awesome dark elf. Mm-hmm. Just in, a huge, hulking
What I didn't
shell.
understand, I'll ask you, because there was a point, and I really couldn't see what was happening, because my vision sucks. And so the subtitles were saying, something about when he took on the curse, he no longer existed.
No. What happens when... Okay, so that... Basically, what he did, the leader of the Dark Elves, mm-hmm. He took that little seed thing and gave it to Curse, the guy that became Curse, mm-hmm. and those seeds, when activated, make it so that the Dark Elf kind of has his body's recombined with everything about him. So that's why he had that helmet. The helmet became part of him, and his armor became part of him. He just was a living. Soldier. Well, yeah.
Everyone's a living soldier.
He's a living suit of armor, mm-hmm. is more like what he is.
Yeah.
With body parts inside it. And that was just an incantation kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It was the Dark Elf Lord imbuing that seed with the power to make him a cursed soldier, or curse. And so he was still who he was.
Yeah.
The thing, though, was... he could never become a dark elf again, and he would burn out. It's one of those, the brightest candle burns out quickest kind of things.
Gotcha. See, now that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So Curse was going to die no matter what.
Okay.
So I kind of talked a little bit too much about what I like. I'll just go on what I dislike a little bit now, and the other things.
No, I think we'll all go into what we dislike afterwards.
Okay, so
I know it's always bad to end on a bad note, but I really want to talk about the good things first, just to get out of the way. Because there's a lot more of those than dislikes.
Alright, then I'm just going to talk a tiny bit about Loki then. I really, really liked Loki's progression. The fact that he is a very troubled character. He's not just a bad guy. Mm-hmm. And, oh my god, the part where they trick the Dark Elves to release the ether from Natalie Portman's character, Jane Foster, I think?
Yeah, Jane Foster.
It was so great, because for some stupid reason, I didn't really see that coming, because it was just kind of Thor releases Loki, and then Loki pulls the trick on him.
15 seconds. I looked at it and I was like, it was only 15 seconds. Like, we didn't even have enough time.
Yeah, I totally expected that, but I didn't understand why Loki was like, I want everything to burn. I hate Asgard, yada yada yada. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Oh god, they're ruining Loki's character. And then Thor, and after he cut off Thor's hand, Thor's like, Loki now. And I go, click, okay. Oh my god, this makes me so happy. I was literally frowning like Scrooge in that theater at this. I was like, oh my god, I hate this. And then that's happened. I was like, redeemed immediately.
Well, because it didn't make sense, because Loki's character isn't like one of those stereotypical, I'm going to destroy the world, I'm going to destroy this. No, he wants to control. That's
exactly.
That's his issue. And the thought that he's... Okay, that was I was about to make a really bad comparison. It was all about ruling. And, I mean, for us to talk about Loki, since we're on the subject, for me, because, I mean, I was excited about the movie, too, Loki was the highlight of the movie. Oh, yeah. And ever since San Diego Comic-Con, I mean, I heard that they went back through and they added more Loki scenes because his popularity went up. Of course, with the Sesame Street when Tom Hiddleston was in there.
Oh my god!
And then they made that AT&T like commercial with him, the little girl, and it was like something, I like Thor. Or what does she say?
She talks about why Thor's so great. Like he can knock things over.
He can knock things over, and he just pushes her.
He's like, I knocked you over.
It's like he can knock things over with his hammer. And Loki just pushes the little girl like, I knocked you over. I don't need a hammer. And she's like, you're mean. He's like, you're only doing this to be cute. And it was really cute.
But because I think something that happened in this movie that was really great for his character was when Curse escapes from the prison, and he says, take a left at that staircase, and Curse goes up there. He was like, he's just going to wreak havoc up in Asgard, and it'll be cool, and I might be able to get out, or something like that. And then his mom dies, right after he had a fight with her, and been like, are you my real mother, kind of thing. And he says no, but, like, his emotions and the way he, like, emotes and his face, you can tell that, yeah, he regards her as his mom, but he's just being a priss.
Yeah, he was throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah, he was throwing a temper tantrum. And so, when Thor comes and goes, I need your help, when he visits the prison cell and Loki comes up to him and he's like, oh, you're going to gloat, eh? And Thor says, remove that mirage, I know it's you, I know what's going on here. And Loki's just in disarray back there because he was freaking guilty. He was like, I killed my mom.
He killed his mom, but we'll start slowing this down since so far the whole review is Zev's thoughts.
Okay,
no, because
my fault.
No, it's because me and Nathan just sitting there listening.
Anyway, like I said, I think they did a really good job with Loki's character, up to a point, and I'll get back to that when we come around to the cons, because I'm still unsure of where they're going with Loki's character. So, my thoughts. End rant.
Alright, well, for me, like I said before, I loved it. Loki was obviously the highlight for me. That was what I paid most attention to. And, you know, since I saw it with my little brother, I thought every scene with Thor and Loki squabbling was perfect. But before I get into, like, the Loki talk, help me if I'm going to say her name. Freya. There's two G's.
The G's are like...
They're silent. It sounds like Freya.
It's North mythology, remember?
It's like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Thor's mother, I want to point out real quick, because in the first movie she was just there, and, you know, she was like the wife. And so, obviously, Odin would do whatever, happy wife, happy life kind of thing. So he loved his wife and everything. But in this one, it took... And not only her, but... in a short, small way, it gave depth to every character. Even in the Warriors 3, and everyone's like, oh, there wasn't enough Warriors 3 in this movie, and Sith. But there was. There was little things, like, who's the Asian character?
Shoot.
Hungu.
No, it's Hogan. It's Hogan.
Hogan. You know, obviously, he was from Van Halen?
Vanaheim.
Vanaheim. And, you know, obviously he was like, you can stay with your people. So you kind of got a feel for that.
Because it helps viewers realize that the Warriors 3 don't really fit, except for Volstagg, of course, don't really fit with the Asgard theme. Like, Hogan, he looks Asian. Yeah. Where did he come from? He comes from another of the 9 realms. I'm pretty sure that the guy with the rapier does, too.
Yeah.
But Volstagg is very Asgardian.
But yeah, there were different points, and then, you know, with Civ, I guess originally there was supposed to be a love triangle, but she got hurt during filming, so they kind of cut it because she couldn't be in most of the scenes. But I liked that they didn't, because there was like a couple glares and stares that they gave to each other.
I think that was enough.
And that was enough, because I feel like if we had a love triangle, I would have just shot myself. Because as much as, you know, there is the romance and the love, I don't understand why we needed it as much. Because I mean, I think the story went on perfectly. But to get back to Freya, who is Thor's mother, she and Natalie Portman's character Jane Foster, because she has this ether, which is this ancient like almost like it's negative matter from Star Wars.
It says it's dark matter.
Dark matter, but it's kind of like that. It's kind of this ultimate energy that you could use however you want to.
It's destructive energy.
Yeah. So basically,
which kind of makes me think Negazone, maybe.
It would make sense, but so basically, there's a scene where she fights Malekith the Dark Elf, who's the leader of all the obviously Dark Elves, and she kicks his butt. She actually is winning. And not like in a cute, oh look at her. She's kind of like
she sword dances.
Yeah,
because she holds her sword like this and she spins around a lot. Like, I'll just say this real fast. I love how they give the characters very unique fighting styles. It's not just, I'm going to swing a sword at you.
Everyone specializes in something.
They have a very specialized set of abilities with their fighting tactics.
Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, so in her fight, it's awesome. And like we said before, spoiler alert, she gets killed. She gets stabbed to the chest, and it sucks. And basically, Malekith's face is kind of burnt on the side. And before, like, his character is like, it's white on one side, dark on the other side. And in this one, it's because Thor sees her die at the last second and then shoots him with lightning in his face and like burns him and then goes after him. But so she dies, and it sucks. And you know, I think she was a really cool character, and it stinks that they just like gave her enough development for you to feel like
you felt something when she died.
But then, like Zeb said, when the guards told Loki that she died, because there was a scene with that Loki had with his mother where at first I thought he made it himself. I thought that he had created the image and he was talking to himself, and it was his own image of like. It was almost his confession of how he wants Thor and Odin to visit him. He wants acknowledgement, and you can see that kind of say that at the end of the movie, but we'll get to that later. But no, so when he finds out she dies, you know, he like waves the guard away, and you kind of think he doesn't care for a second. So he gets up and he just lets with this pulse of energy and knocks everything over. And then later, when Thor goes to talk to him, like Zeb said, he has this illusion where he's kind of laughing, saying, "Oh, but you know."
What, did you come here to gloat? He's like just like seems really high and like mighty about himself, and then Thor goes, "You can put the illusion down."
And when he takes it away, and you just see, and it wasn't like in the preview we saw. When I thought, okay, like when I saw the previews of it, when he says, we better get started. You kind of see his hair down. I thought, okay, well he's a prisoner, so he's not going to be well taken care of. But no, you got to see him like his feet are covered with berries, where he obviously had a tantrum, where he like stomped things, broke things, and that scene alone redeemed the character, because it changed the way I thought of him. Because it wasn't this villain. No, he was a very childish. He was a younger brother, and that's kind of what I'm sorry. That's what it came to. Both of you kind of know what it feels like to have a dominant older brother or two. Okay, but no. So basically, he throws this tantrum, and they set out to escape from Asgard. But we'll let you get some talking in before we move on to the plot.
Well, thank you.
Keep it quick. Talk about Loki and then we'll move on.
Well, one of the things I really liked about the movie was the comedy. And it didn't feel forced. It felt really natural.
It was super natural.
Everyone except for Darcy.
Yeah, Darcy.
Kat Dennings. Her character, she was funny in the first one, but this one, it was everything she said had to be I don't know, some kind of forced joke.
A snippy
yeah, and it was
joke.
like stupid like that. I hated the point when she said, "I called the government. I've called Shield." How'd you call Shield? That's like me saying I have Barack Obama's cell phone on like speed dial, and I call him whenever something happens.
You don't?
You do?
I do.
Son of a bitch.
We bowl together.
All right. Anyway.
Anyways, yeah, the comedy was probably one of the best parts of the movie. Like the scene when Thor goes to the apartment and he sees a coat rack and he just
hangs his hammer off.
His hammer, which is supposed to be heavier than a star.
No, it's not.
It's not. It's unmovable.
His hammer is simply unmovable except when held by him. So he can put it anywhere, and it's just going to be about the weight of a rock, because that's what it is.
Then how come when he fought Loki in the first movie, he put the hammer on his chest and
because
no one can
move it.
Oh, you're right.
See, if it was heavy, it would have been like it would have crushed him. But instead, it was just like I can't move from this spot.
I gotcha.
But yeah, that was funny. And the scene when he was fighting Malekith through the in the warp fields, and they land on the building, and they're both like, and they all just slide off.
To add to that, when they get teleported through one of the holes in reality to another plane, and Thor had just thrown his hammer and called for it, and the hammer's like, where'd boss go?
Yeah, it goes
into space, and the hammer goes into space to try to get to this other world. Like, you can imagine if they had just been on this planet for like 2 or 3 days, Thor's hammer would just still be flying through space to try to get to him. But luckily he gets teleported back, and then it goes almost to the sun, like, oh, I need to turn back now.
But it was cool because it reminds you
that
that this is all in one universe. And they even kind of mentioned, and this is kind of weird for me, in the first movie they mentioned they're gods. And they keep talking about, how they're gods, but in this one, they kind of change terms and they say, oh, actually, we're just beings. We're just higher beings.
We're just as mortal as humans.
And he also...
Well, not just as, but...
5,000 years.
They live 5,000 years. They don't get sick.
But Thor also mentioned that when in the first movie when he was talking to Jane Foster, he's like, what you call magic, you see as science or one of the same.
Cool fact, thing about that, if you notice, when they're fighting the Dark Elves and such, they use guns. They have flying technology. They can shoot things. So yeah, they have turrets. And they have missile turrets and AA guns.
I thought I was watching Halo
in Asgard.
Okay, then since we're on this topic, let's talk about the main battle scene. Okay, so there's a battle scene where the Dark Elves invade Asgard. Alright, now for me, when I watched this moment, all I could think of was the Phantom Menace. We had Natalie Portman, we had basically Naboo. I mean, and even the ships made noise. But the cool part for this scene was it started out with Heimdall, who's played by Idris Elba.
I was about to say that. Oh my god.
He stops a ship by himself. And now, I've heard different people, on AMC Movie Talk, and a lot of people have mentioned that, anything with Idris Elba in it, you'd watch. There's what term they use? That he could put his big toe in a cup of water.
They can make
for 2
a movie
hours.
about him putting his big toe in a bathtub of ice water for 2 hours, and it would be sold out.
Yeah, but his character, before, there was some depth. He got frozen by a frost giant, and
no, by Loki with the frost thingy. That's what he got.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, and he eventually breaks through that, and you're like, oh, well, he's kind of cool. Well, in this one, I mean, you realize that he's more than just the gatekeeper. He's all everything.
You know what I feel it was? It was all those people, remember, that had been like, you can't have a black guy be an Asgardian god. He's got to be a white guy. And they were like, you know what? We're just going to give him more screen time. How do you like that?
Well, he is a doorman, so that's why.
And no, I love how...
Shut up. Oh my god.
Going to put the roster answer? All right. He's seen where the white gloves.
Anyway, I was going to say something after that.
Johan?
Shut up!
All right, shut up.
You are so bad. Anyway, they actually explain how they give him more screen time. Because you're like, he's a doorman. Isn't he supposed to just, sit there at the gate to the Golden Bridge, or the Rainbow Bridge, and just sit there the entire time? But at one point, Odin shuts down the Rainbow Bridge and doesn't let anyone go. So Heimdall doesn't have a job, so
unemployment.
He can go anywhere. He doesn't have to stay there. So he can actually be a part of the plot. And it's a very reasonable way of doing it. Mm. So it's super believable. It's great. And he's also just a really cool guy.
Yeah.
I felt so bad on that scene when they're at the bar. Because, his whole point is, I see everything. I am the Guardian. Oh, but now there's these ships that are invisible even to me. It's like it's not taking away everything he's good at.
Not entirely invisible, because he still has really heightened senses of awareness and stuff, and so he can sense disturbances. That's how he knew that cloaked scout ship was there, because he was just like, something's not right, and runs outside and sees it shimmering. He's like, that thing.
Oh no!
But
no, he Han Solo'd it. He didn't point. He shot. Well, not shot, but he then took it down
Yeah.
instantly.
Oh my god, that scene was so
He stabbed
cool.
So basically, there's a gateway. Okay, so from the Rainbow Bridge, which connects to
The rest of the 9 worlds.
but what's the gate called?
Bifrost.
The Bifrost.
Yeah.
And then from the Bifrost, there's like a bridge that leads into the main city of Asgard. Well, there's like a bridge that kind of has like it kind of looks like the Golden Gate Bridge in my mind. Like it has loops.
If the Golden Gate Bridge here.
No, so we're not gonna talk.
It looks like that.
They can't see it.
Damn. Never
Alright,
mind.
but basically there's a loop and he runs up it and then jumps onto it. And does he have a dagger with him or a knife?
He has two. He
Yeah,
has two,
he's
like,
got
knives
he's
in
got 2
back.
knives in his back.
Knives. He doesn't have a sword, a knife, and he takes on a ship. And in my mind, I wasn't going to challenge that. That was perfect to me.
No, he's awesome. What he does is he messes up the exhaust. He like cuts it
Yeah.
open, and the exhaust explodes, and this ship just goes. And it explodes onto the bridge, and he jumps off, and it does that really cool thing where the hero jumps down, and then the flaming wreckage hits in the distance. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. But no, I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. The one thing that annoyed me was okay. So when we get to the main battle, and I've heard this from other people and other reviews that I've seen so far, and they've talked about how, especially on AMC, I hate bringing up their points, but one thing that he said was, so if the Dark Elves were 5,000 years in the past, why were they so far more advanced than Asgard now? I mean, I understand they're Vikings and everything, but
I don't think it's not so much that they're more advanced; it's they use a different technology. If you notice, these Guardians don't use guns when they're fighting other people. They use their swords and stuff. That's because they want to.
Yeah.
They don't use cloaking technology because they don't want to. It's kind of in their nature to not do that kind of thing.
Okay.
They fight in the light. The Dark Elves fight in the dark. It's thematic.
Okay.
That's the main reason why. It's just because they don't want to use that kind of technology. It's not that it's more advanced or less advanced. It's more like, I don't know. I was gonna say throwing an apple at an orange, but that does not make any sense.
It trumps my orange.
Yeah, like they just did 2 different animals. That's all.
Okay.
And so they have their strengths and weaknesses. The Asgardians have a better battle technique. They have better close combat, but the Dark Elves have better tricks up their sleeves. So like grenades that create gravity wells and
Black holes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And really cool scenes.
And
But did you notice? Okay, during the last battle, the cursed gets killed by one. It says Loki.
Oh yeah.
I keep jumping far ahead. Basically, in one of the final battles between Loki and the Cursed, who Thor couldn't beat the Cursed because it was just brute strength fighting brute strength, and then Loki came in
pummeling him
after Loki had already killed a bunch of Dark Elves. But anyway, so Loki gets stabbed in the chest, or like
stab. Oh my god, it's so cool. Loki stabs Curse through the back of the chest and out through the front. And then Curse turns around, looks at him, and just shoves him onto it with him. And then throws him off. And then goes back to start fighting Thor again. But Loki's like, hey, guess what I did when you stuck me onto you? And he had activated a grenade, one of those gravity grenades on Curse's belt. And it explodes, creating a black hole, a mini black hole that sucks Curse into it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then the point I was trying to get to. So in that scene, when the gravity starts, you get a very graphic death of Curse. So basically, you see his eyes and his tongue get ripped out. And that was like the one point that stood out to me is you see his eyes get ripped and his tongue get ripped. And I don't remember that happening to anyone else.
the reason behind that
it was in his hip.
Kind of. When the grenade explodes on like Asgardians, basically in the earlier parts of the movie, they just kind of contort and like flip around, and then they disappear into this little like pocket of gravity, and they're gone. But with Curse, it explodes on his hip, and he kind of crumbles. But as he crumbles, bits of him are falling and like twisting and going into this vortex. The reason that is because Curse is pretty much made of ash. That's what he is. He's like this being that's glued together.
Yeah.
And so when that thing activates, he just crumbles. And the only reason why that didn't happen when he was fighting Thor and the like is because he was so, like, strong. Like, there's, like hardness-brittleness scale.
Yeah.
He was hard enough not to get hurt by anything, basically. But this thing was pulling atoms apart. And so it was much easier for it to do that. The only reason it didn't, like, do that to the humans and the living creatures that were being thrown in is because they were so stretchy.
Yeah.
That's really the only explanation I have for it. Because I'm pretty sure their bones were just destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah. Explanation.
Okay. But no, so basically there was this big Asgard scene, and I think the whole reason that the Asgardians were caught off guard is because Odin said, because you get a flashback to when the Dark Elves first attacked, like 10,000 or 5,000
It was like
years
5,000
ago.
years ago, something like that.
And basically his father, Odin's father, so Thor's grandfather,
Bor.
who kind of cool looking, but his helmet was cool looking at
It's
least.
B-O-H-R, so it's not B-O-R. Or, it might be B-O-R.
Bore.
Yeah.
Bor is a scientist. Never mind, it's B-O-R.
But anyway, so he claims that the ether was destroyed and that the Dark Elves were all destroyed. And then so Odin took that, literally and said, hey, this doesn't exist anymore. But then the ether appears in Jane Foster because she finds it and it attaches itself to her being. And then all of a sudden, so it's there. But, 2 and 2 don't make sense. So the ether's still alive, it's still around, but the Dark Elves aren't. And even when they said the Dark Elves could come back, and he says, no, they're all dead. That doesn't matter.
Well, that's because at that fight in the beginning where the Dark Elves are being destroyed utterly by the Asgardians, the leader of the Dark Elves, what's his name, like Markath or whatever? Malekith. He basically says, we're going to fake our deaths. And so he drops all of these giant ships on the battlefield that just destroy all of the invading army. And as that's happening, he gets on the last of these ships, and it phases out and goes away. That happened without anyone knowing.
Mm-hmm.
So they all thought that they died, because that was the last ship.
I understand they thought they died, but they also thought the ether was destroyed.
No, that's...
Oh, he hit it, you're right.
Bor hit it.
That's right.
But he told everyone that he destroyed it. So that it was one of those... I don't think he did tell anyone to destroy it. They just hit it.
No, yeah, he told one soldier to put it somewhere where no one would find it.
Right. And as kind of a way of making it so that no one could ever find it.
Yeah.
No one could ever have a chance of getting to it.
We just want to point out, Zeb's more fresh on this because he just saw it. Me and Aston saw it yesterday. So Zeb has a better recollection of what happened.
A bit, yeah.
So we're just going to point that out. There's still like 24-hour difference in viewing time. But, so yeah, basically the ether reappears. I forget where I was going with this. I forget what my major point was.
What was it
like? He's caught up in these rants.
How the ether gets destroyed?
No.
Or...
the ethers and Jane.
Right. And how does it reactivate the Dark Elves? Are you wondering about that?
Nope, I completely forgot what I was thinking. I'm gonna rewatch it and be like, how did you forget?
Okay.
But no, we'll just keep moving. So basically, yeah, we had the first scene where the Dark Elves in the very beginning, a flashback. We get to find out that they attacked Asgard, and Asgard is in ruin now because the queen is dead. The funeral scene I want to talk about was awesome. And me and Az are kind of joking, sadly. So when Freya is sent off as in a Viking,
very Norse
Viking funeral.
It's called a burial at sea.
Mm-hmm. And so you see her go out, and then you see a bunch of other, all the soldiers that died, they're all pushed out. And I just thought, what if you're the archer that had to hit it and you missed? Or your flame didn't go off, and so, you look closer, and after you missed so many times and the, boat didn't catch on fire, and you, look back, and there's just arrows everywhere. She's, mauled, and not one is catching on fire because no one put oil in it, and she's just destroyed.
Oh, God!
I'm not gonna lie.
You're horrible.
When I was watching that scene, the one little quote was going on in my head. All I can imagine is Odin saying, "Through all my years of living, I've never met someone more human."
and then Scotty comes out of nowhere. Oh Jesus!
And it does.
And then as that happens, you just hear Amazing Grace with violins just playing in the background. Oh God! Thor 3: The Search for Freya.
So basically after this funeral scene, Odin is in this he's mourning. He's obviously mourning, and he's never felt this vulnerable before, being the ruler
The
of
All-Father.
yeah, basically. And Thor is saying, hey, Thor actually is the one thinking clearly out of this. He says, let me take Jane Foster to the Dark World. I forget what it's called. It's
Svartalheim or something like that?
yeah, something like that. So he wants to take her there, and then that way, and then he says, so if you fail, then the universe is doomed. Well, if they fail here again,
Yeah, and they were probably going to fail again.
You would think that for someone who's been in war for 5,000 years, I know it was his wife, but I feel like he would for Odin, he would just be a little bit more open to every possibility instead of because I remember when the Frost Giants first broke into Asgard in the first movie, and Thor's like, "Oh, we must go and teach them a lesson." No, they learned their lesson. We're not going to waste any Asgardian
it was
blood.
a complete switch.
And then he was just like, "We will risk every last Asgardian, all the blood, blah 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 blah."
As many as I choose.
Yeah, it's just like, Odin, dude, come on, really?
Yeah, and then so from that point on, then Thor says, "Okay, then I'll make a plan myself." And then it's him, Heimdall, and the Warriors 3, and they're all sitting at a table. And it was almost like Ocean's 11.
Yeah, it was so good.
And they sat there, and so they're playing out through the plan, and they're talking through it. And yes, it was ripped from Ocean's 11, but I thought it was really cool. And it was first he gets Loki, and the scene with Loki was really awesome. And he says, you lost your mother, I lost my mother, and
When do we stop?
yeah, when do we start? And so they break Loki out of prison, and this is the part that everyone loved, and it was the greatest kept secret throughout this movie, because I thought if anything was going to get spoiled, this should have been spoiled. I mean, we knew about the two secret endings before the first preview came out.
Yeah.
But so Loki is freed, and he takes the form of a guard, and he's kind of joking around, maybe I should take a different form. And then he turns Thor into Civ.
Oh, you look so
he turns into
ravishing. He's like, doesn't matter what form I am in, it's gonna hurt the same.
And then he finally says, well, maybe I should take the form of one of your new companions. I thought he was going to take the form of Natalie Portman. Or Jane Foster.
Yeah.
But then he walks around, and it's Captain America. It's Chris Evans. And I heard someone say that he's in his new uniform. No, he's in his original.
He's in the original one.
Yeah, he's in the one from Avengers.
He's like, oh, I like, when I wear the shield, I feel all honorable, but the suit's a little tight, and it's just like, that's
my favorite part is when he's like, God bless, and then Thor just slams him up against the wall before he says America.
But when after me and Anthony saw that, we were talking about what if he turned into Hulk instead?
Yeah, I think that would be funny, because it would have made sense. Hulk was the only person who really beat the crap out of Loki. If he mocked Hulk for that thing. And I think that would have been cheaper, because it would have had just CD.
Puny God. He'd be like, oh, look at me, I'm all big and green, I can throw people around.
I use short words. But no, I mean, it was really funny. The entire theater cracked up. And like you said, even the things that he said and the movements he made, it was, because I guess Tom Hiddleston actually acted out that scene, and then Chris Evans
did it for him. Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought it was great. It was the best kept secret throughout the movie. And then after Loki and them escape, then Civ shows up, and they're talking through, and her part was, and she bides time. And so the Asgardian warriors realize Loki has escaped, and they come after Loki, and she holds them off. And that's, you don't really see her fight, but you have the idea that, okay, so she's gonna take some people down with her.
Civ. She's gonna kick some ass.
I think that's the last time you actually see her for the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but she pulls out her sword and holds it at Loki and says, "If you betray him, I'll kill you."
Right.
And then he's like, "Okay." And you're as charming as ever. I've missed you, something like that. And so they move on to the next place, and they get on the ship. So there was a ship left over that the Dark Elves left. And,
when they invaded.
Yeah, and so Thor and Loki and Jane Foster all get on the ship together, and
as they're doing it, though, Heimdall stops and goes, "I'll buy you some more time."
No, it wasn't Heimdall. It was
Volstagg.
Volstagg
stopped. That was the thing before.
No,
Heimdall before said that his duty is to inform the king.
No, Heimdall informs the king because he has to, and then Lady Sif stops some of the Asgardian soldiers for a little while, and then in front of the ship, before they get on, Volstagg is there, and he goes, "I'll buy you a little bit more time." And as he does that, when they're passing by him, he stops Loki one more time and goes, "If you betray them," and then Loki goes, "I know, you'll kill me.
Trust me, there's a line."
Yeah, it's like, yeah, trust me, I know, there's a line.
But it was just, it was good. And I don't know.
It was natural.
The seriousness, but then the Loki kind of commentary.
Yeah.
And it flowed. There was, like Addison said, there was no forced comedy, except until you get to the human world where Darcy is and her intern. But, so they get on the ship together, and that's where I liked it, because then Thor and Loki are just making fun of each other. And he's at one point he was like, maybe I should fly. I'm a better pilot than you are. And then Thor's like, considering I'm the only one who can fly. It's like...
Speaking of which, tiny aside, most of you already know that Thor doesn't really fly. He uses his hammer, swings it, and uses it, and the momentum gets him going. They do that really well in this, and because there's a part where Thor, when he hears the sirens going off, or the trumpets going off to go to the prison, he jumps off of a balcony, reaches out, and his hammer comes flying in, and he grabs it, and you can tell the exact moment that he starts zooming faster and starts flying off. It's not when he jumps off, it's when the hammer connects with his hand, and he goes zooming. It really makes you understand that Thor doesn't just fly. He throws a hammer.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
And when you really think about it, like when in the first movie when Odin's like, if Thor is worthy to use the power of Thor, can you imagine if one of us did that with a hammer? It would tear our arms off. Like, come!
My computer died. I need to write a note down.
Like,
to talk about.
Or dislocated while you're hanging on like, my arm!
But, what? You want to take over? What happened after that?
Let's see. More witty banter between Loki and Thor as they're flying around. Like, one of the things we didn't talk about this, but when they were fighting about, they're arguing about Freya and like...
Oh, no, we missed the part. So, they're on the main ship that they hijacked, and they jump off because they're being chased by Asgardian, and then the guy with the, I always want to say the Reaper.
The rapier?
Rapier. What's his name?
Fendrel.
Yeah. Yeah, so he jumps off, and his character... I feel like he's different than he was in the first movie. It might not be the same actor. But
it's a different actor.
Different actor,
yeah,
okay.
that's what I thought.
But I liked him. Like, even though he was in there for a short amount of time, he was just funny.
He's like,
right. Yeah.
He's like very
nothing personal.
He's very much a musketeer character.
And
I hope he gets more. I hope the entire Warriors 3 get more on time or screen time.
They should
see what Thor 3 will be about. There has to be.
Yeah.
But if they don't do that, I would like to see a Marvel one shot, just like
that would be cool. A one shot of the Warriors 3.
Mm-hmm.
But that'd be really cool for the DVD to come out.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I keep getting sidetracked. It'd be like when they were trying to reclaim the Nine Realms. That was the one shot. So anyway, after he jumps off and they jump onto this like a floater boat. What are they called?
It's a skiff.
A skiff, and they're escaping. Well, Loki is the only person who knows a back door out of Asgard, and so it's like a little like hole in this like mountainside, and they're flying towards it. And Thor's like, "What is?" He's like, "We're not gonna make it." And he goes, "Well," and Loki looks at him and says, "Well, if it was easy, everyone would do it." And then so they go to this little hole at like high speed, and it like breaks off part of the ship and everything. And so they finally make it through, and they end up in the dark world, and they just hear Loki's voice, "Ta-da!"
Which is like, it was so funny because they made it so loud to make sure you heard it.
Like, they wanted you to hear that one point.
It was hilarious.
Oh man!
Ta-da!
So it was really funny, and so they get there, but when they're they're flying on this little ship, and Jane Foster, is asleep, and Loki and Thor have this commentary where Thor basically says, "I want to trust you, but I know I can't." And there's even a point before where he says, "When you fought me before, there was a glimpse of hope that my brother was still there. I want you to know right now that that's all gone. So if you betray me, I will kill you." And in the trailers for the movie, they keep saying, "I will kill you." But in this one, he said, "I would kill you." So Thor has never actually committed to the thought that he would ever kill Loki.
No.
And I really like that fact that even though he says it's not there, he would never actually kill his brother.
Which is very good on the director's part and on the writers, because Thor has always been like that with Loki.
Mm-hmm.
He's never wanted to to kill Loki.
Mm-hmm.
He's been his brother.
Yeah.
Like, they had adventures for thousands of years as kids to middle-aged Asgardians and stuff like that. Like, they're best friends, and Loki, no matter what he does, Thor will always try to leave that glimpse, like little bit of hope, a tiny crack in the door to let him back in.
And even if you think about this Loki, not the one in the comic books, but he'll hurt Thor, he'll injure Thor, but he would never kill Thor. Even when he was fighting Thor in New York, he only stabbed him in the side, and then he was done, and he left. when okay, he was down, he could have killed him there, but he didn't. And in this movie, as you'll find out, so basically what I'm trying to say is Loki loves his brother. There's a point where, I mean, as much as he says, "You're not my brother, you're not this," and the same thing with his mother. He said, "You're not my mother," but when she died, he went crazy. And I feel like if Thor died, Loki would go crazy. But
I feel like he says that because he wants to save face, but beneath it, he knows it, his mom knew it, and Thor knew that he regarded them as such.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was like no shadow of doubt in that.
Yeah. But there's a point where Thor and he says it again, like, "I don't trust you. I want to trust you." And Loki says, because they've lost their mother and they're upset. And he says, "Don't trust me, but trust my rage," because they're both fighting for the same thing. They're both fighting for vengeance. But there is a scene where they're arguing, and you want to talk about that real quick?
They were arguing, and Thor's just like, we both lost our mom, blah blah blah, and then Loki said something that made Thor angry, and Thor like pushed him on the side, and was about to punch him, and he was just like, our mother doesn't want us to wouldn't want us to fight, and he pushed him away, and Loki's just like, I don't think she'd be that surprised. And that really struck with me and Anthony because that is something.
That's what we do constantly.
Yeah.
You're fighting, but it's fighting. It's something that you always do. It never goes away. But what Loki says to Thor that enrages him is the fact that, like Zeb said, they've been alive for 1,000 years, and Jane Foster her life is nothing but a heartbeat.
Right.
Like, it's just something that he'll experience briefly, and yes, I guess he's experienced time the same as we are. But it's not the same, and she'll die before you even have gray hair.
I mean, it's as like when you're a kid, days seem to take so long to happen, but now we're in our 20s and
it's rushing by.
It's rushing by. So yeah, it's just kind of one of those things.
I think when Loki said that, that's when kind of made the beginning scene a little bit the beginning scene better with when Loki and Odin were talking like, "Oh, I just went to go rule humans like a god like you do." And he's like,
"Yeah,
he was like, we are no different. We live, we get old, and we die." And Loki's just like, give or take 5,000 years.
Give or take a few.
But yeah, this happened at the beginning of the movie, and I know we're flying back, but there was when Loki was on trial in front of Odin, he says, "What did you do?" And he says, "I went to rule the humans." I know he did an evil thing, and he caused mass casualties, but I mean, he was right. He went to rule, which is what they would have done originally before they probably became this enlightened. Like, that's what Vikings did.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that's what my culture led me to do. So anyway, we'll continue with the plot. Basically, they end up finding out Malekith is aware of where the ether is at all times. So he knows that they're back on the Dark World, and he goes after them. So they see the ship, and the Dark Elves are marching out, and they're marching basically towards Jane Foster is. And they're sitting on this like mountain or hill, and Loki... Oh my god! Saw Malekith and his army of Dark Elves marching towards where Jane Foster was, and Loki and Thor looking down at them from this hill, and Loki kind of pulls over his handcuffs to Thor as if to say, I need to fight somehow, and Thor takes off the handcuffs, and 12 seconds later, Loki stabs him?
Yeah,
he stabs him.
Loki takes out the knife that was handed to him by Thor and just goes, "You knew you shouldn't have trusted me, brother." Shank, kick. And Thor goes tumbling down the side of this hill.
Yeah. We need to do a better review instead of a synopsis, because that's what I got into. We've walked through the whole...
Right.
So, basically, this battle ends, like we said, Thor and Loki fight the Cursed, and Loki ends up dying. And then Thor mourns him.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Thor mourns him, and then they are trapped, because Loki was their only way out. And they're trapped in the Dark World, and they get out. Man.
They get out because they find a cave, and earlier in the movie they'd found an anomaly in London, England.
Everything in this movie mattered. There was no wasted point because we have to explain the entire movie.
There was a place in London where there was a tunnel to another world that you could drop a shoe in and it would disappear for a little while. Anyway, turns out the other side of this tunnel was in a cave on the Dark World that they found.
Conveniently.
But it's still kind of funny because there was a bunch of just random stuff from like kids dropping things into a tunnel.
The car keys.
They found car keys.
The car keys are so funny. I was like, oh, I'm watching.
And so they find the exit of the tube, get out of there, go back to London, and find the Dr. Eric
Selvig.
Yeah,
Eric Selvig, the dude from Thor 1
and
Avengers. He has since gone crazy because he had a god in his head, and that doesn't do very well with your brains. So
I'll mention that in the dislikes.
yeah, so he was doing wonky things and had been put into an asylum because he was running around Stonehenge. naked.
Where Stan Lee was a resident.
Can I have my shoe back?
Yeah, so when he had been, so the Stan Lee cameo in this one was while Eric was at a senile people's home, he was like trying to like tell them about how this like thing was happening, this convergence of all of the 9 realms, and it was going to happen soon, and bad things were about to happen. And he was using a shoe to like make a thing for it, and Stan Lee pops up and goes, "Can I have my shoe back?" that was really funny. Anyway, so what else did we like about this before we move on to dislikes?
I like the fact that they turned the very last battle scene. Jane Foster found a way to make the anomalies happen, like almost to her control.
Right.
And so the battle with the Accursed was he had to be in this certain place at a certain time.
Not Accursed.
Not Accursed.
I'm sorry, the Malekith the Dark Elf.
Malekith.
And he had to be there with the Ether, which he attains through the battle with Loki, Thor, Accursed, and him in the Dark World. But anyway, so he acquires it. They found that in London
there was a convergence point.
Yeah.
The point where all of the other 9 realms would be in a line.
Yeah.
And so that Malekith could use the ether to destroy all of them at once, basically.
And yeah, so what I liked about it was she used it, and they said, okay, we'll just throw him away. If he's not in this place anymore, then it won't work. And so they were constantly, taking even the soldiers that were attacking the people of London and throwing them to different realms. And so the fight between Thor and Malekith was basically, and I know how they said they will visit all 9 realms, and they did because they were thrown into every single realm.
I love the jets.
Yeah.
These 2 jets are flying at Malekith's home ship, his base, because it's parked right on top of Greenwich in London, and England, excuse me, and these 2 F-22s or whatever are flying straight at it, and they're like, all right, fire, and they shoot their missiles, and the missiles curve up and go into a huge portal in the ceiling or into the sky, excuse me. And they're like, oh no, we've got something going on here, and they just like fly and then they gravitationally get pulled up into it, and they just pop out in Svartalheim or whatever, not Svartalheim, in Vanaheim. And are just flying around in this place that resembles like Mongolia.
And don't forget also the one of their rockets like hits somewhere. You see Mongol just go like, what was that?
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's like, don't forget, I'm still in this movie.
Yeah.
But sorry,
go ahead. No, you go. You really want to talk about the fight.
All right, but anyway, so the final scene I liked about it was they jumped around different places. Thor would call his hammer, and his hammer was traveling through like the atmosphere and going back and forth.
They did a
trying to find
really
him.
good job of Thor and his hammer.
But
it was fantastic.
Yeah, so basically, it was a really cool final fight. I mean, it had Thor elements, and at the very end to stop him, they used the poles that they were using to throw people to throw off and make the warps and anomalies. They basically shot like his arm into one realm, his other arm into another realm, and then ultimately
his chest and the rest of his body gets teleported into another realm. It just makes it so that if he's not... Oh, no. He wasn't dead because he gets teleported to the Dark Realm and his body's just like this and he's like, ah. And then, when that happens, Thor gets hurt. And Thor's on the ground and the ship...
Mothership.
The mothership kind of thing that's floating above them starts to crumble and fall. And it's falling and Thor's on the ground right where it's about to fall. And Jane Foster comes out. It's like, oh God, we've got to pull him out. Get him out of here. And it's falling and she's like, oh, it's too late. We're going to die. And you hear it going... And it's gone. And they're like, what was that? And they look up and it's gone. And it teleported on top of Malekith. And he's just like, oh God! And this goes crush.
It was like a Jurassic Park scene.
Yeah.
But
Good dinosaur, nice giant ship.
And so that's the end of the movie. And the final scene, which I really like, since we've basically done like the whole movie, was Thor obviously goes back to Asgard and leaves Jane Foster again, and and he's having a conversation with Odin. And this is the interesting part, which I had to write down. So he's having this conversation with Odin, and Odin basically says, "I want you to be king." Thor says no. He says, "I can be the protector, and I can't do that from the throne." And he doesn't want to. He said, "You could even say that Jane Foster could live here, and I wouldn't do it. You could say that."
I would never be able to see her again, and I still wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool. I mean, he just has matured so much since Thor 1 and Avengers. So I liked it. And he says, "Yeah, I have one son who did nothing but want to rule, and now I have a son who will do anything to not rule."
Yeah, and mind you, Thor in this discussion actually says, "I think Loki is more fit to rule than I think that he would be a good ruler. Loki knows how to rule. I do not."
Yeah. And you know what? Would it have worked if Loki and Thor, if Thor was like, if this Thor
was like a protector emperor and Loki was like his, like the actual like...
Yeah, or if Thor was an advisor, if they had ruled like that, maybe it could have worked, but, you know, could have, would have, should have.
Muscle in the brain.
Yeah, and so, yeah, but at the very end, because after Loki dies, a soldier comes and tells Odin, and I thought, because obviously it's Loki who is this soldier, and I thought maybe Loki just wanted to see the reaction. He wanted to see if Odin would mourn him. And the scene ended. And so in this final scene...
Yeah, you don't get to know what happened there.
Whoever played that guard must have studied Tom Hiddleston perfectly, because he had that smile. Even though it was a different person, I was like, oh, that is the Loki smile.
But you also knew it was him because in the scene where he was walking, he turned to that soldier.
Right.
So anyway, at the very end, and this is what I was going to say, when Thor says, "Here, take my hammer," and Odin doesn't take it, and I thought, okay, it's because I'm going to let him have it. It's because Loki couldn't hold it.
Odin can hold it, and Thor can hold it, but Loki couldn't.
And Beta Ray Bill can hold it.
And Beta Ray Bill
should be in the next movie.
Oh, and that's also funny from the first one when Loki tried to like pull the hammer himself. Like, you want the hammer? Oh, that's right. You can hold the hammer. Oh, poor Loki.
But so yeah, and then the movie ends with Thor saying, "No, you are the king. You are the ruler," and then walks out. And when he does, then Odin's body fades away, and it's Loki, and he just sits in the throne, and then it ends.
It's like, thank you, brother.
He says like, "Thank you, brother."
Yeah.
So maybe Thor did know, because I mean he knew that Loki.
No,
he didn't know.
The only reason that Thor knew that Loki was putting up airs when he went to ask for his help was because he knew that he was just as distraught about their mother as he was.
Maybe.
All right, so now we're going to go to our cons, and then we're going to go to an overview, and then we're probably going to rate.
Before we do that, couple little things that I was just going to shout out about. Okay, when the Marauders were attacking Vanaheim in the very beginning, and they call out their rock dude.
Oh yeah.
That is actually a cameo, because the first enemies that Thor fights in the comics are some rock aliens that are that guy.
Okay.
And so that was a cameo that I really loved. Another thing, I love another cameo. The Crow that comes to talk to Odin was actually a part of Norse lore, which is really cool.
You're so cute.
He's checking off his little list of things.
Hey, you watch
I
yourself.
make lists.
I make lists.
Gosh. Other than that, I think that's all for my
Back
really big pros here.
real quick, also back to the whole rock alien that Thor fought. That's also he's also an alien in Planet Hulk.
Planet Hulk, yeah. Actually, if you read the comics and kind of know that, if you read Planet Hulk at all, it's when Hulk gets sent to a red planet and becomes a slave, yada yada yada. He meets one of the Rockmen that was actually part of the band of Rockmen that fought and lost to Thor in the first Thor comic. He actually tells a story about it. It's really cool. You should read it.
Alright, so we're going to quickly go through quick cons. Addison, start with just make them quick.
My cons are, like we said before, Darcy. Her, even though, like, she was funny, but at the same time it just felt like everything just had to be funny, and it was kind of unnecessary. This con isn't really for Thor the movie, but in Marvel, is about Idris Elba. Even though he was awesome as Heimdall, I would like him to see him as another Marvel character.
That's not really a con. We're talking about, like, what made the movie, what you didn't like about the movie.
Let's keep it with the
And
movie.
he was a pro for the movie.
I mean, yeah, it's not. I'm not saying
really-
I just rather.
We're talking
him
about Thor,
see-
not Marvel.
I like the movie. No cons except for Darcy.
Oh, that was quick.
Okay.
Zeb,
I don't know if it's a pro or a con because it could work either way.
what is up with the two of you?
I don't know. Shut up. I don't know what's up with Loki. I don't know whether because he's a very troubled character, and they did a really good job of that because he did good things, but he's also done bad things. And at the very end, it's ambiguous, but it's leaning toward bad again. And I thought that with this movie, we would see Loki realize that he needs to take a step back and reevaluate how he treats his fellows, because Thor still loves him. He's his brother. You know, his mom still loved him. And with the ending, did he kill Odin? Did he lock Odin up somewhere? Is he vying for power now? Right after he asked Thor, do you believe that Loki would be a good leader, kind of? So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. I'll have to wait until the next chapter of this to really make any judgments. It works for the movie, all right? It works for the movie series, but I dislike Natalie Portman's character a lot. I really wish that she weren't the romantic interest of Thor, because as Anthony mentioned, Thor has been alive for like 2,000, 3,000 years, all right? And he's had all this time to be probably the #1 bachelor in Asgard. He's had chicks, all right? And probably, or at least he should have had chicks. And
He's
almost
ravaged the village.
all of them, almost all of them to a T, are probably better than some random Earth chick.
Stronger, with sturdy.
Yeah, like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it works for the movie.
Odin
Because, what?
Sorry, Odin actually mentioned that too.
Yeah, Odin does mention that, and Loki mentions that.
Everyone mentions that.
Everyone mentions that. I'm still befuddled by that, but for story purposes, it works.
Mm.
I will give that. I like the way that she was worked into the story. I just wish she weren't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it was good, but it was bad.
Yeah.
The Sif thing, I was kind of disappointed, but at the same time, kind of glad they didn't make a huge love triangle thing out of it, because yeah, it would have made the movie a little bit too convoluted.
Mm. That's it?
That's all I got.
Alright, for me, my final cons I couldn't stand. Darcy, I thought it was forced. I couldn't
Oh, shit. Yeah, rewind just a sec. The scientists. I felt that the scientists were forced. They shouldn't have been as comedic value as they were. Eric,
the nurses. Oh.
the scientists.
Okay, yeah, I got
like Eric was kind of okay, I think, in how kooky he was, because he was kind of messed up. I felt that he was a bit too out there. Darcy, I can put up with, but I wish she wasn't so snarky. The intern that they added was superfluous, and I couldn't care less about him because
It's useless.
he was useless, and they didn't have him in there too often, so it was okay. But I wish that he wasn't there at all. And with Jane Foster, besides, I don't want her to be the romantic aspect of the Thor story. I felt that she was too childish in the way that she acted. It's like, oh, there's this guy that's a god, and he went, and like we had like a little like thing that went on for like a couple weeks, and then he went away because he was locked away.
It was less than a week. It was like 2 days.
Yeah, it was a weekend.
He was like, he's locked away at home for a while because the gate got closed. Oh, and then he came back and fought at New York and saved the world.
But you didn't see me.
But he didn't save me, and then he went away again. And now he's finally back. And the first thing I do is slap him and say, "Where were you?" Because I totally didn't know that you were saving me and everyone else. She was,
Yeah.
I just didn't like it.
Well, since the both of you guys went into depth about my cons, basically I couldn't stand Darcy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It saves us time. But Eric Selvig, is that his name?
Yeah.
I did not like how he went crazy, because in that case, then Hawkeye should be crazy.
He did spend a lot of time around the test.
He spent a lot more time with him.
I know. For me, I feel like I understand that. Like, okay, he's overwhelmed with knowledge, like Hugo Strange was in the Batman. That's the only thing I could like reference is that he was overloaded with knowledge. But I just didn't like how why he got naked and was running around Stonehenge. I thought that was just too much. It was one thing if he was rabbling.
Yeah.
But there was no points for, like, oh, he does stuff without his pants on. Like, it's funny, but it didn't make sense. It's like anything that was human that was trying to be funny wasn't funny, but all Asgardian stuff was funny.
I feel like it would have been better to keep it so that he does go to like a mental hospital they have to get him out of and stuff. That he had been at Stonehenge, but he'd just been like trying to write on it or something, and then people come and like tell him not to, and then he tries to fight them, and then he gets arrested and taken to the mental hospital. Not running around naked
And they had to make
and chasing people with a spike.
They had to make sure
Well, it was one of those
naked 3 times with the different
I know, right?
news feeds. Like,
Oh man.
Yeah,
but
but
we get it now.
I don't know. So ultimately, that was a big issue for me. I didn't like how Natalie Portman's character was just waiting and waiting and waiting for Thor to come back. Like you said, he was there for 2 days, and then all she did was like, "I'll wait for you for 2 years." So if he was there for 3 days, it would have been 3 years that she waited. Then one of the secret endings is she's just sitting there, and it's like 2 days after he leaves again, and she's like depressed. And it's like, I get it, he left, but I mean, come on, you were a really smart scientist, and apparently she kind of just like lost it. She lost the inspiration. But no, those are my cons. Nope, we're done.
No, she did go on a date though.
She went on a date.
She was on a date.
I was actually going to say, in her defense, maybe she's just like super starstruck. Like, there's a god, and this god actually likes me. So, oh my goodness, I have to drop everything and go after this god.
I get it, but as a movie, I feel like she should have a little bit more. So now we're going to get to the final part. So our overview, which we've kind of just given you our whole overview, so we're going to skip that part and go straight to our rating system. Our rating system is going to go from 1 to 5. 1 being shut up and give me my money back. A 5 being shut up and take my money. So we're in that range. A 3 is I saw it and I liked it. 4 is obviously I would go see it again. And 2 is I made it through that movie. I probably won't see it again or buy it on DVD. So Addison, between the 1 and 5, what would you rate Thor: The Dark World?
I'll give it a 4.5.
God, we made up these ranks.
Give it a 4 or a 3 or a 5.
4.
There we go.
Zep.
I'm going to give it a 4.
A 4. I'm also going to give it a 4. It wasn't a shut up and take my money kind of thing, but I'm definitely going to see it a couple more times, just because I feel like there was stuff I saw, I missed, but I want to see it again. So yeah.
I feel like it's better than the first Thor.
Yes.
But I also feel like it's one of the better Marvel movies they've come out with.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good as Iron Man 1, because
No.
that is perfection, but it was really stable, it was really well written, there weren't very many, I don't really think I know of many plot holes in it. There's just a few things that they left out that aren't really plot holey,
Yeah.
that can be fixed later. We just need to know what happened, more than that's physically impossible kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was really well done, really well explained. I liked it a lot.
Cool. All right. Well, so we give it an honest 4 all around. So that's our average score for Thor: The Dark World. As always, I'm Anthony.
I'm Addison.
And I'm Zeb.
Visit us on our website at www.thedynamicbuzz.com. Also, like us on Facebook. We love getting comments from you guys. And follow us on Twitter. We, enjoy retweets. Also, while you're at it, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel and check out all our awesome videos and reviews. The secret ending review. Alright, in Thor: The Dark World there were 2 secret endings. The first ending was of finally we get to see the Collector. Basically, we have Civ and who's the other guy?
Volstagg?
Volstagg, thank you.
Yeah.
And they walk into this very cheaply made, it looks like almost something from the Sci-Fi Channel room where
There's like glass cases that have weird things in them.
weird plants. The one plant reminded me of something from that was in X-Men. It was there's something from X-Men that reminded me of. Anyway, and
one of them just looked like a giant diving helmet, like an old diving helmet.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a plant.
Yeah.
And then
that's
there
what
was
I was talking about.
Yeah, and there was a giant pair of butterfly wings in one of the cases that was obviously fake, but I don't know if that was supposed to be fake or not.
Yeah. But
there was also like a nymph thing and like a chick like leaning up against one of the glasses in one of the
That was
cages.
trapped.
It was trapped.
But no, this is the first time we get to see Benicio del Toro, who is
The Collector.
Yeah, the Collector. And this is a very bold move for the Collector because originally the Collector looked almost like a mix of Mongol and
Albert Einstein.
Thanos. I always thought it was a mix of, but in this one, because they're led in by this weird chick who's pink. And
She walks like that.
yeah, she walks all weird.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's very sci-fi channel cheap looking. Anyway, so he comes out and he's very flamboyant. Now this is the thing that gets me, is why is it every person, and this is nothing against acting that way or, proceeding that way, but it's like, because he collected things, did they make this character
Way out there.
and wearing, like basically lamb chop from,
Oh my god, from that one...
the song that never ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, why he had to be wearing that. Like, what makes it a universal thing that anyone that collects these kind of things has to be flamboyant and... I don't know.
That's very true.
But, it's not a thing against it. It's just, why does that have to be a universal thing? But, I mean, that's... Because this was directed by James Gunn, right?
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with Alan Taylor and...
Which
Thor.
who said he didn't like the this end credit scene.
Yeah. But no, so, yeah, I thought it was very cheaply made. But it's exciting because we see that they're handing over one of the gems of the Infinity Gauntlet, or one of the Infinity Gems to him because they already have two there.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want them to be together. And so they said, we're going to try to split them up. And then, at the very end, Benicio takes it, and as they walk away, he goes, one down?
One down, six to go.
And then he holds it closer, and then it ends. And that is the first of the two endings. Now, if you guys want to talk about the second ending, since I talked about the first one.
So, while Thor and Malekith were planet hopping, realm hopping, I guess, during their end fight, they ended up on the frost giant home of, what is...
Frost Giants. Oh, Loki.
Jotunheim.
Jotunheim?
Yeah, Jotunheim.
They ended up on Jotunheim and teleported right in front of a large cave. And before they could start fighting again, out jumps this... They fought
It's like an ice hound
It's
thing.
like an ice hound. I think they fought a larger version of it in Thor 1. And it chases them, and they go to a cliff, and the cliff breaks off, and the cliff falls, and this monster is like, oh! And then they all go through another portal and end up back on Earth. And they kind of forget about that giant monster, but he shows up again in the end credits.
Chasing birds.
Chasing birds.
Like a dog.
Like a dog. He's just in this parking lot that they'd been in earlier in the movie, and this flight of birds goes by, and then you hear just, row, row, and this thing's just galloping behind them, jumping and trying to nip at these birds. And you're just like, what? Oh, gosh.
And honestly, I would have rather seen a longer version of that than what they also showed with Natalie Portman waiting and then Thor coming.
Yeah.
They come in slow motion, just...
And they kiss.
I almost wish that if they're really going to go down this route of now Thor can see her whenever he wants to, they should have made it so that Thor came down and he was dressed in normal people's clothes and said, I'm not Thor. My name is... And the name of the dude that was Thor. Like Philip, whatever his name is. Shoot.
Chris Hemsworth?
No. The dude that when... Originally in the comics, when Thor was sent back down to Earth to be punished by Odin, he forgot who he was and his name was changed. Or he remembered his name being...
that was... I forget. I know what you're
something
talking
else.
about.
Yeah. And it would be great. It's like a little cameo to that, and also a way so that it's like when Thor sees this chick, he's not just like walking downtown with the let's go
But
get coffee.
everyone knows it's Thor.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing, because even when they were in London, people were walking out the window like, look, it's Thor!
Well, I mean, if he was not dressed in
I know, but
full
I'm just saying, but
regalia.
that was the kind of cool part was, Thor isn't in the superhero mentality where he has to hide his identity. He's almost like Tony Stark, where he's like, I'm Thor, I don't care.
That's true. That is true.
That's what kind of makes him cool. But
I mean it more not as much as like he doesn't want to, he wants to draw less attention to himself because he doesn't. I'm sure he wouldn't want to just be like getting food with his chick and 1,200 people come around out of nowhere just because they know that he's Thor.
I think he drew
That's
attention to himself when he got on the train.
That was
yeah,
hilarious.
that's for
Anyway.
the later review. So yeah, that's it. Once again, see you guys later.